When I came home early that evening, I didn't expect my world to collapse in seconds. I had left work with flowers in my hand, thinking of surprising my wife, Lisa, with dinner and laughter. But as I walked through the door, the sound of laughter came from upstairs, laughter that didn't belong to me. My heart began to pound as I climbed each step, quiet but trembling, until I reached our bedroom. The door was slightly open, and what I saw froze me. Lisa was in bed with another man. For a moment, I couldn't move. The flowers slipped from my hand and fell silently to the floor. Lisa turned, her eyes widening with shock, and the man beside her tried to cover his face. I didn't say a word. My body felt numb, my thoughts blank. She started to speak, something about explaining, but I couldn't bear to hear it. I just turned around and walked out. My heart felt like it had been ripped out of my chest. Outside, the air was cold, but I barely noticed it. I sat in my car for a long time, staring at nothing. My phone buzzed with messages from her, then calls, but I ignored them all. When I finally drove away, I didn't know where I was going. I just wanted to get as far from that house as possible. The image of her betrayal replayed in my mind like a cruel movie. Later that night, I got a call from Lisa's father, Mr. Anderson. He sounded worried, asking if everything was all right. I didn't want to tell him at first, but the pain in my chest made it impossible to keep quiet. I told him everything, how I found them, how she looked at me without shame. There was silence on the other end of the call. Then, in a trembling voice, he asked me to come over to their house. When I arrived, Lisa was already there, sitting on the couch, her face buried in her hands. Her mother looked heartbroken, while her father stood by the window, his fists clenched. I could feel the tension in the room, thick and heavy. When Mr. Anderson finally turned toward his daughter, his eyes were full of rage and disappointment. "Lisa," he said quietly, his voice shaking, "what have you done?" She tried to defend herself, mumbling excuses about loneliness, about me being too busy. But before she could finish, her father slammed his hand on the table. "Don't you dare blame him," he shouted. "You had a man who loved you, who treated you with respect. And you threw it all away for what? A moment of weakness." The room went silent. Lisa started crying, but her father's anger didn't soften. "You've disgraced yourself, and you've broken a man who did nothing but love you," he said. "If your mother and I raised you to be this unfaithful, then we've failed." His words cut through the air like a knife. Even I couldn't hold back my tears then. I never expected him to defend me so fiercely. Lisa tried to reach out to me, her voice trembling. "Mark, please, I made a mistake." But I stepped back. "No, Lisa," I said quietly, "you didn't make a mistake, you made a choice." Her father looked at me, his expression full of guilt and sorrow. "Son," he said, "you don't deserve this pain. You don't have to forgive her. Not now, not ever." For the first time, I saw Lisa's father cry. He turned away, covering his face, whispering that he was ashamed of his own daughter. The weight of that moment hit everyone in the room. Lisa's mother broke down, and I could feel my heart shattering again, not just for myself, but for the family that had just been torn apart. After a long silence, Mr. Anderson turned back to me. "You should leave her," he said firmly. "Don't let her destroy more of your peace. She's made her choice, and now she must live with it." His words were hard to hear, but deep inside, I knew he was right. I nodded slowly, tears streaming down my face. That night, I packed my bags and left the house I once called home. Lisa tried to stop me, begging for another chance, but I couldn't do it. Trust, once broken, can't be repaired so easily. I walked out into the cold night, feeling like everything I had built had vanished in a single day. Days turned into weeks, and the pain slowly began to fade. Mr. Anderson called me a few times, always apologizing for what happened. I told him it wasn't his fault. In truth, his words that night had changed everything for me. They gave me the strength to move forward instead of drowning in grief. Months later, I heard that Lisa had moved back in with her parents. Her father had made her get counseling and find a job to rebuild her life. As for me, I started focusing on myself, my work, my peace, my future. I stopped blaming myself and began to accept that sometimes people hurt you, not because you did something wrong, but because of who they are. And though the memory of that night still lives somewhere deep inside me, it also marks the moment I learned what real strength looks like. Not revenge, not hatred, but the courage to walk away when love turns into betrayal. What her father shouted that night didn't just change everything for her, it changed me too.